Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Don't know when I've ever been prouder of a baseball team. Guys wanted the top of the mountain very bad, but there's only one team that's going to leave here happy.
And it ain't Florida State again. Wonder how they feel about that in Tallahassee. Hello, you guys get to the World Series, you never win it. Fire your coach. We got schools that don't get to the World Series but get to regionals and super regionals, and they get the coach to resign, or they fire the coach. I guess in both cases recently, technically, resignations, but you get my drift. But people in Tallahassee, they seem to be okay with old Mike Martin and the fact that got eliminated again last night. No big deal to the folks there. He'll have a very competitive team again next year. And the World Series continues tonight with another elimination game.
Here's when it gets a big deal. You know when it gets a big deal?
Where does it get to be a big
deal? If Florida wins it.
Yeah. It's hard to see Florida not winning it right now. It's
always come down to your rival in case they run. What is a good fight if you get a beaver damming up a river and here comes a gator? I mean, who wins?
Ooh,
I don't know.
Well put. Well put. Welcome in, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Got a big show for you tonight. So much to talk about. Of course, the NBA draft is an hour away. And, of course, we have interest in our states about what's going to happen. A lot of talk about potential trades leading up to the draft, going into the draft, during the draft. Who knows what's going to happen?
This offseason has been more entertaining than the playoffs.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, all the rumors and the trades. And I think that's a problem maybe for the NBA, that it's been more entertaining. I have checked into the NBA. Again, granted, I'm a Laker fan, so I wouldn't have any reason to really check in the playoffs. Although I'm a basketball, I'm a basketball fan too, and I watch the playoffs. But we all know that it's the Cavs and Golden State, and those two teams, it was predestined that they were going to be in the finals. We knew that last summer.
Barring injury.
When Kevin Durant signed with Golden State, even before he signed with Golden State, we knew that that was probably going to be it.
Yeah.
But hopefully the rest of the league, they need to have some parity. They need to have multiple teams that can make a run. I don't think it is good for the game, for growing your game, just to have two super teams. Have one, but have I don't know. I don't know. I say this as a Laker fan. They used to have their little runs too, and I know people hated it. And I don't have a problem with dynasties, but if the Lakers just need to get better. That's what it needs to happen. I just want the Lakers to get better and fast. I'm tired of this.
Well, what happened?
Keep dreaming.
What the NBA discovered is, and I'll go back to what I said before. Your sport has really arrived when you get good ratings, great interest, and the media centers are down. That's when you know because the NFL, New York, hey, is great. Los Angeles got the team back, but the NFL is going to be interesting no matter who's in the Super Bowl.
Well, it's just the difference in the league and the mindset of the country. I mean,
but there's no difference.
People love football, I think, more so for the social aspect and the partying aspect. And, oh, yeah, there's a football game going on too. But they just love football and the tailgating and the bigness of the sport and the fact that you only get your team playing once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks during a time they have an off week.
Now, the only thing missing in this
games are a lot more valuable because they're so few.
The only thing missing in this NBA draft is there is not a player in the draft, like a Kareem or whatever. You say, well, if we get that guy, that's the only thing that's missing in this draft.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, Lonzo Ball could be the next Hall of Fame guard.
There hasn't been that guy.
But it's not the one guy.
There hasn't been that guy since LeBron, right? I mean, he's the last sure franchise maker.
Well, I mean, they always have guys that they think are sure franchise players. There's been some really good guys in the draft. Other than LeBron. LeBron was that once in a generation player that's lived up to the hype.
That's why
you got other guys that people think are going to be LeBron.
That's why you got people so, rabid over Portenza and would make the trade, if the Knicks are willing to, do
sounds
something
like
to sell
Well,
Jackson.
you know, the interesting thing about
Porzingis, I'm sorry.
yeah, the interesting thing about LeBron, and this is where LeBron can really help young guys when he retires, and that is, as I said before, when my best friend worked in Ohio, and I go up there every year to see his family, I've been hearing about LeBron since he was in 6th grade. And some young kids can't handle
The truth.
that pressure all the way through
Get it,
adolescence,
the truth.
through high
Paul Pierce.
school, through the NBA. But
Right.
he's done it. He's one of those that survived being just, anointed from the time he was about 13 years old.
All right, coming up, bottom of the hour, Morgan on the move. Mike Morgan will chime in on all things Morgan. Second hour, preview of the Georgia Bulldogs, those who aren't in jail. We'll get Seth Emerson, who covers the Bulldogs, and find out what he thinks they're going to be all about here in 2017. And, of course, the big news around here, if you follow our social feeds and the website and all that, the big news around here, of course, Dale Jr. unblocked us.
That is huge.
Dale Jr. I'm sitting here last night.
What made you look?
You guys had left.
Yeah.
You guys had left, and I was on Twitter just, checking on a couple of things, and you get these little pop-ups, of tweets. All of a sudden, I see a Dale Jr. tweet, and I fell out of my chair. I fell out of my chair, and I clicked on it, and there it was in all its glory.
I saw
the Twitter page of Dale Jr.
Hopefully that will last. Maybe Kerry Tharp finally got to him.
I don't know why he unblocked us. I tweeted at him.
We don't know why he blocked us.
The last thing I heard as I was leaving last night was, Dale Jr.?
Yeah.
And then I left, and then I got a text message 5 minutes later in all
I was
caps.
so
He
excited.
unblocked us.
And I sent him a tweet message, not a DM. He's not DMing with us.
Better not.
I wonder how
slide into
you
his
get
DMs.
to so he's not following us. We can't DM.
Some people have their messages open.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
He doesn't. But I thanked him and
Dale Jr.
told him what a great day it was for us and how much we appreciated it. So that's good. We can listen to his podcast and everything else that he opines about. And the other story around here is, K-Mac, I opened up the website today. I see you're leaving.
I am.
Yes. Talk about being knocked over.
That's how I'm
Where'd that
breaking
come
news.
from?
That was as surprising to you probably as Dale Jr.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. This is my next to last show. Wow.
Yeah. And we'll save it all for tomorrow night.
Let's.
But I have to, in this month of departures and resignations, is this a resignation?
Are you gonna hammer me like you did Ray Tanner and Chad Holbrook?
Did you resign?
Was it forced? I did. Ironically
did they try
enough,
to talk you out of it?
It is pretty ironic that I did resign. I think almost it might have been the same day as Chad Holbrook.
Well, did they try to talk you out of it? Did you have the option to come back?
I have look, we're going to keep those conversations private.
Okay.
Corn, I just know that these were decisions we made with my family. No,
I didn't know the conditions around here got so toxic.
Oh, yeah,
I'm telling you.
Apparently, yeah, the Fire K-Mac crowd.
They won out, huh?
It was big.
Yeah.
No, it was big. No.
Well,
Okay.
we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Let's do a show tonight.
Let's do a show tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be a good goodbye sentimental journey here on Sports Talk to some degree. But a nice piece that you wrote on the website. Goodbye, good luck, and thank you. And I didn't realize that 99 is when you walk through the door, huh?
As an intern.
Yeah.
Lou
You and
Holtz's.
Ian Maripol.
Yeah, we came in together.
That was those were great days because our office was in Forest Acres and we were about a half mile from Zesto. And every day, either K-Mac or Ian had to go make a Zesto run for lemonade.
Yeah.
Those are great days.
I think we had to
We
pay
don't
for
have
them,
those
too.
kind of days anymore.
Not only were we unpaid interns, we were actually losing money.
That's true.
because we
You
had
did
buy
have to pick up
lemonades.
the tab on that from
Make
time
you
to time.
run the Zesto down the hill.
We just don't have those kind of days around here anymore. I'm sorry. The young guys have grown up and spread their wings and moved on. All right, 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter @SportsTalkSC. And, of course, if you want to get a final comment into K-Mac, we are more than happy to take your phone call. I just wish, it's too bad Ronnie is not here to share
Oh, man.
in this moment. It's
Yeah,
just too
me
bad.
too.
We'll be right back. Sports Talk here on a Thursday night, 800-956-7266, the number. We'll get to your phone calls in just a moment. Couple of things to talk about related to big story around here. I guess the second big story is K-Max news. Other big story, the ongoing search for a new baseball coach over at South Carolina. And I believe, as we told you last night, Ray Tanner is back in town. I was told this afternoon, very unofficially, okay, I'm not saying this is a fact, but why not float it out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, we believe in spreading unsubstantiated rumors here
not-
at Sports Talk. That's what it's all about.
I have not verified this yet.
You turned it down.
No. I got too good of a job. But there was a I was told this coming through the baseball scouting world, okay, a scout telling telling me that somebody.
Baseball insiders.
Well, whatever. It's coming from the scouts, who scouts tend to know stuff, what's happening with coaches. And it was passed on to somebody who passed it on to me that a candidate was on campus today at USC, okay? I'm not saying it's true. I'm just playing talk show guy here and floating something out there. I'll continue to check and see if we can verify who it would be. You know, obviously, I don't believe it's Kevin O'Sullivan, even though they do have a day off today in Omaha. It's possible he could have hopped on a jet, flown into Columbia.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
And then going back to Omaha.
I'm
not
very
hanging my hat on
theory.
that. Not hanging my hat on that.
Yeah,
but
I could definitely see that.
No, but in all seriousness, I am serious about the information that I was told from the circles from which it came. Who it might be, I don't know. I could venture a guess. Probably someone maybe down the list, maybe the guy from Wake Forest, if indeed Tom Walter, perhaps Chris Lemonis from Indiana. You know, I did find it interesting the way that Coach Skoll last night answered our question when I just sort of jokingly said about his two compadres from the Citadel, McDonald and Lemonis, are they candidates at South Carolina? And he just could have just laughed and said, "Are you kidding? That's crazy." But the no comment kind of led me to start thinking, and I did a little background check on Lemonis, and he's 3 years into a 5-year deal at Indiana that pays him $250 a year. He's been to 2 regionals in 3 years in a program that was sort of resuscitated by his predecessor, and he's kept it going. And so he of course was at the Citadel with McDonald. They were 2 excellent recruiters for the Southern Conference level baseball at that time. And I think somebody that Ray Tanner knows well from his days coaching at South Carolina and going up against the Citadel for some players. So I don't know. I'm just like everybody else spitballing. Could be him.
And he worked at Louisville too.
Worked at Louisville. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's where he went from Louisville to Indiana. So I'm just sharing with you information coming from a trusted person who could not verify, but his information was coming from the scouting circles. So anyway, we'll continue to check to see if anything more is with that. John Whittle, who we also trust for his baseball insight and information, continues to pound the drum strongly for O'Sullivan. I still can't see it. I hate to do. I mean, they might be wishing that. I can't see it happening just financially. It doesn't make sense for South Carolina. And then he still believes Monty Lee is the next guy in line for Ray Tanner. I can't see that either.
Yeah,
I can't see that either. But again, you know, I could be blind to the truth here. I can't see that South Carolina coughing up over $2 million to get their baseball coach when you consider paying off the former coach and what it would take to get O'Sullivan. And then Monty, I mean, look, for all, you know, for Monty's reputation and all that, he's done nothing more at Clemson than what Chad did at South Carolina. I mean, it's not really, I don't see that as a huge upgrade. I really don't. No knock on either coach. I mean, you know, obviously we like them both and we think highly of both. Monty does a terrific job at Clemson, though he hasn't gotten them out of the regional. And Chad did the same thing at South Carolina. They both recruit at a high level. I just don't see where that is. Yeah, I actually, you know, if Ray doesn't hire O'Sullivan or he doesn't hire McDonald or he doesn't hire Schlossnagel, one of those big coaches, anybody else he hires is not going to be anybody with a track record any better than Chad, of the people on the list.
Right,
I mean, the guy at Wake Forest, he's been to a couple of regionals.
Right.
The guy at Indiana, he's been to a couple of regionals. Monty, he's been to a couple of regionals. They're not going to have any greater resume than what Chad had at South Carolina.
You know, I don't look at athletic directors and who they hire a lot of times, but I did really take a look at the way Jeremy Foley did business, because Florida has enough cachet where they can just open up the checkbook and go after people. But Jeremy Foley deliberately, if you notice his hires, he's always looked at the next young guy standing at the precipice who hadn't done it yet, but thinking that if I get him in here, he can do some great things, which is why it carried him to grab a guy at 29 years old and Billy Donovan and have him there for what, a couple of decades or nearly a couple of decades. So I'm thinking where Ray is going with this, and maybe he wants to make a hire that's going to last at least 15 years. In his mind, that the young guy is right at the precipice. And when I mean young, I'm talking about early 40s probably.
All right, so that is the latest on that. Former USC pitcher Tyler Webb been called up by the Yankees. Interesting that he goes up, and the guy who trashed the state of South Carolina, Rob Refsnyder, was sent down.
He apologized for that. We should.
He did. He
played down in Charleston for a while with the River Dogs.
Ugly things to say. Chase Pender, former Clemson outfielder, signed his contract with the Cardinals, so he's done. And the Citadel football, they have hired an offensive tackles coach. Brent Thompson announced that today. Charles Hopkins joins the staff. He comes from William Penn, where he was the offensive coordinator. And the nickname for William Penn is
the Quakers.
That's a good guess, but no, that's not correct.
Well, Pennsylvania, the Quakers, University of Pennsylvania.
They are the Statesmen.
The Statesmen.
The Statesmen.
Okay.
All right, let's jump to the phones. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Let's go to Glenn in North Charleston. Hello, Glenn. How are you?
How are you all doing?
Good.
I did. Are y'all gonna have a replacement for K-Mac already, or
nobody can replace K-Mac?
Ask Chad Holbrook what it's like replacing a legend.
Well, let's see. Who did you replace? Wait a minute.
I replaced Teddy Hefner.
Did you replace Teddy?
I did.
Or Kev? Hey, yeah.
No,
Teddy Hefner.
Teddy came in for Kevin.
Wow.
That was me.
How about that?
That was a line of succession.
Yeah.
So I was the guy that Kevin was the original legend. The other Kevin.
We keep that chair greased because a lot of different butts have come across that chair.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. We're working on it. Glenn, are you interested? Are you available?
Send your resume.
Glenn, where'd Glenn go? Can we bring Glenn back up real quick? We put him on hold. Why did we put Glenn on hold? What are your salary requirements?
mine?
Yours, yeah. Are you interested?
Yeah, like living expenses for one thing, finding Dolly and I a home, and 20,000-30,000 a year would be great.
You're hired.
Oh no, we don't pay that much. Whoa.
You're hired.
Wait, if we pay that much, I'd still be here.
Cheap, work my way up. I earn it, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Of course, listen, if you're gonna fill K-Mac's shoes, you got to be able to say, "Go Cox, go Tigers," right? Got to have a cheerleader, right?
A cheerleader?
Cheerleader?
Is that what I did?
I don't know. Did you?
Not that I know of.
That's my point.
Everybody knows that it depends on who you talk to.
Well, I've noticed that on average, 9 out of 10 emails to our website are positive.
Yeah.
Except for
there's been some news in there. Man,
don't read them all.
I must have ran into somebody at some point.
Yeah, just don't read them all. Just read the happy ones.
I never read the comments.
800-956-7266. Back in a moment. We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC is how you can join us here on the program. Recruiting coming up, a lot of big stories to share with you. I'll get to that in a little bit. And the guys are announcing plans to announce their plans. They're letting us know when the decisions are coming down. And we'll fill you in on all that coming up. Also, an update on Zion Williamson, who maybe 2 years from about this time, could he be number one? Could he be the number one pick in the draft in a couple of years?
Could be.
One more year of high school, 1 year of college.
1 year at North Carolina.
Oh, come on.
Duke.
Come on, K-Mac.
Kansas.
The one thing you need to do as you go out the door is leave here in a positive mood.
Yeah, I'll pull the corn blue. South Carolina, I think they're going to go 12-0 this season. I don't see why not.
Absolutely.
Clemson will never lose again.
I've only been wrong once since I made that statement.
Only once.
Now I think it's going to take that statement's going to take a couple of hits this coming year.
A few, one or two,
couple of hits this coming year. All right, back to the phones we go. Where is we don't have Mike yet? No Morgan yet. Okay, Jack in Lake. Not in Lake Bowen, at
if he's
Lake
in the lake,
Bowen.
Let's get him a
Jack
raft.
Welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I'm going to pose this question to K-Mac. Maybe I'll be the last person to be able to ask him a genuine question, and I'm serious about this, and I hope you can help me out with it. I read a story on one of the Carolina websites a week or so ago. There was a baseball coach that had been associate head coach, assistant coach, a pitching coach, at 3 or 4 different schools and had an outstanding resume. I'm just excellent. Cannot recall his name, but I wonder if you guys know who it is. And I'm thinking I'd like to have him and get him maybe for $500,000. If you can think of it, put your heads together. If K-Mac doesn't know the answer, and try to come up with it. But it's been a long time since I've seen a resume that good. He's about 48 years old.
You said he's been a head coach?
No, he has not been a head coach.
Okay.
So I'm going to hang up and listen.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I don't know who that could be. Let me think.
He's a pitching coach?
A perennial assistant coach, it sounds like. Assistant head coach, pitching coach. Gosh.
I know the pitching coach at Virginia has been mentioned as a potential
That's
candidate.
dead.
That's dead?
That's dead.
Who killed it?
This dead. Not going to happen. You can take him off the list.
Based on
my information.
Okay, so he's dead.
That
I'm
one I can
keeping him
say,
on my list.
That one I can tell you with strong certainty.
Tom Herman dead or really dead?
Yeah,
Tom Herman killed himself. He was very much alive until he took the gas himself. What can I tell you?
Tommy Frazier dead or really dead?
That's his sister's fault. Come on, K-Mac. You can keep digging up all the skeletons you want to.
I got to take a few body blows on the way out the door here.
Dig up all the skeletons you want to dig up going back. I don't have a clue who he's referring to.
No, me either.
I mean, that could have been, unless it's somebody off of a highly ranked team. I mean, maybe he was thinking about that coach at Virginia, but no, from what I'm told, that's not happening. I think Ray is shooting for a head coach, at this particular point, and we'll see what goes on from there. It is time for Morgan on the Move as we welcome Mike Morgan back to Sports Talk for a visit with us here. And, of course, Mike comes to you courtesy of Play It Again Sports in Columbia. You can buy your golf equipment, fitness equipment, water sports, and a whole bunch more. Bauer Parkway in Harbison, buy, sell, and trade. And by Founders Federal Credit Union, check out foundersfcu.com and learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. Okay, Mikey, good to have you with us. Boy, the World Series, been pretty good. Had some close games, had some blowouts, but it certainly appears that Florida and Oregon State might be, cruising for what should be a terrific championship series.
Well, it certainly is, and when you look at what those two teams have in common, without question, it's the pitching. Oregon State has been a team that has led the nation in the ERA with just an astounding number all season long, under 2.0, which is just unheard of. And then Florida, what Florida has this year, and I've said this before, to me, this is not their most talented team under Sully. I actually think the previous two were maybe chock full of more prospects top to bottom. I don't think this team hits as well as those two do overall. But they have the experience of being there. Most of these players have already been to Omaha at least once, some of them twice. They have 3 really good starting pitchers and a closer that is not like a one-inning guy. Michael Byrne can give you 2 innings, 3 innings, whatever you need be. I saw him do it in the regional, which, believe it or not, they barely won against Bethune-Cookman. You add all that up with guys like Schwartz and Maldonado, and they're getting key hits from Langworthy. Heck, Deacon Lippett hit a home run, and that kid has been overmatched all year long by SEC pitching. So maybe this is the year that they actually do it, even though it's not their most talented team.
Who do you like tonight? We have an elimination game. Louisville, of course, with everything they've got, their big offense. And who do you see surviving in that game tonight?
TCU.
And TCU, yeah, Louisville and TCU. Who do you see? Who do you expect to survive and get another shot at it?
I'm going to go Louisville. I think Louisville is a little more potent at the plate, but gosh, TCU is, all they do is go to Omaha seemingly every year. Coach Schlossnagel's done a phenomenal job, but I think it's a close game, but I would give Louisville a slight edge.
Yeah. What about Florida State? Another trip, another return trip without the trophy. They lose 7-4 to LSU. Mike Martin, 18 trips, no championships. I mean, it's great to get to Omaha. Nobody is going to cut your legs out from under you for getting to Omaha and not winning it. But why don't they win it? Why do they always come up short?
It's $1 million question without a $1 million answer. Other than the fact that it shows you just how hard it is to win Omaha. I've always maintained you have to be a little bit lucky. I don't care how talented you are. You got to be a little bit lucky to win that event. And I don't think they've been very lucky at all. They've had teams that certainly had the talent to win it. And that's the frustration with Florida State fans. And the last couple of times that I've had Florida State, whether being there a few years ago in Tallahassee for a super, or I had them last year in a regular season game, their fans are just frustrated. I mean, they just cannot figure out why they can't get in over the hump. And as lovable a guy as Coach Martin is, and as many games as he's won, and 40-plus years of consecutive regionals, you get the feeling there's a little bit of a, hey, maybe it's time to move on vibe by some of that fan base.
Really?
So, oh yeah. I mean, that's just, again, it's the byproduct of being a spoiled fan base, where you get a taste of winning, and you think you're supposed to automatically start winning championships. They just haven't been able to get over that hump, and I just wonder how much longer it's going to continue to go the way it is.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken either.
I look at Mike Martin, and I think of the people call the greatest manager who never won a World Series, Gene Mauch.
Mm-hmm.
Great tacticians. They put together great teams, but some reason they just can't get over the hump.
What do you think of Poche last night? Picked up the win, 12 wins on the year. I think he becomes LSU's all-time winningest pitcher. How good was he in your eyes last night?
He's great. I mean, 39 career wins now for Poche, the all-time schools leader in that category. Has a devastating curveball and just knows how to pitch. Lang is the guy who is going to draw much more attention from scouts, be a greater pro prospect, has greater pro stuff. But Poche is just a guy that had a pitch and has been clutch. And again, LSU was my pick to win it all this year. Again, I've been wrong every year. Go ahead and state that for the record. So they've already, it's going to be very difficult for them to win coming out of the losers bracket, but at least Poche gives them a shot.
All right, hang on. Come back to you for a little bit more. Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk, and we'll be right back. All right, more with Morgan in just a moment. Recruiting after the top of the hour. Update you on a Clemson basketball target who's going to announce tomorrow. Also, the latest with Zion Williamson. We'll talk about him. A little bit more on Stephon Wynn Jr., all that coming up in recruiting. Stay tuned for that in a little bit as we go back to Mike Morgan for a little more Morgan on the Move. So, South Carolina still in its search for its new baseball coach. Where do you think it's heading? I tell you what. let me throw a couple of names out there at you.
Okay, good. Why don't you just ask me to give you the lottery numbers while I'm at it?
Well, and I tell you, just tell me.
Not over there.
Tell me if Ray's going to swing or miss, or if he's just going to take the pitch. Swing, miss, or take the pitch. Okay, here we go.
This is award-winning game show.
One of my on-the-move games here. All right, here we go. Kevin O'Sullivan.
Miss.
Monty Lee.
Miss.
Miss or take the pitch?
Well, I mean, I don't even think he's going after Monty Lee, and I'm not sure if he's going after O'Sullivan either.
That would be take the pitch.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, then in that case,
so,
you might be taking a pitch on both of them, but you're definitely taking a pitch on Monty Lee.
It's a beanball.
Don't you understand baseball? See, taking the pitch.
I don't understand your makeshift game show.
He's a little bit obtuse.
Baseball he gets. This game,
all right,
so much.
All right, let's move on. Tom Walter.
I think he's a candidate. Does that mean it's a hit? I don't know what that means. In your game show, in your world, I don't know what the rules are on this thing. I certainly think he's a candidate.
I mean, certainly they could, if they want Tom Walter, they could have Tom Walter.
Yes, if they want him, they will swing and hit a home run and get him.
Hit means yes, that's who they're going after. Miss means they go after, they're not going to get. And taking the pitch means not interested.
Yeah.
You follow?
Yeah, but I'm going to take pitches here. I don't know who he's going after. I don't have if you don't have inside information there in Columbia, South Carolina, how do I have it here in Atlanta?
Because you are Mr. Baseball ESPN,
and we all know Ray Tanner's known for being.
And you're Morgan on the Move. That's how.
Well, nobody with ESPN knows either. If you notice, there's been very little said about this whole process from anybody at ESPN or anybody from D1 baseball or any of the other outlets, because nobody knows. I mean, Ray's a shrewd enough guy. He's not going to start telling people who he's going after so they can go ahead and report it and potentially sabotage the whole search. So if you were to ask me what names make sense, what names are realistic, that I can do. I thought all along. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. What names make sense to you?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of them that make sense, but let me tell you the ones, and I might have said this already on your show. I forget. Honestly, it's been a few weeks now where this story's been going on. You mentioned Kevin O'Sullivan. Now, if there's a personal situation, and again, you would know more about that than I would, with him and his family wanting to relocate, that's a game changer. I have no response for that. If you're asking me if we're just going apples to apples, why does a coach leave a program that's been to Omaha 6 times in 8 years, and that an AD that's going to pay him whatever he wants? I just don't see it. Sometimes you have to kind of turn the table and say, okay, if Kevin O'Sullivan was at South Carolina and they just made Omaha 6 times in 8 years, do you think Ray Tanner would lose Kevin O'Sullivan to another program in the country?
Especially one
the answer is heck no.
Yeah, especially in your division.
Yeah,
right. There's no way that South Carolina is never going to lose a successful coach that they're happy with to another program in the sport of college baseball. Never, ever going to happen. So why do we think Florida would let that happen? Or why do we think Louisville would let that happen? Or why do we think Virginia would let that happen? Or TCU would let that happen? So some of the names that I'm hearing, well, I agree they're great coaches, and maybe you make a phone call. I don't know the reality of those coaches just bolting for what? No more money, a better atmosphere, better fan base, you could make the argument, but I don't know if that's enough for a coach to just completely get up and relocate if he's already having success at a major program where they're paying him a lot of money.
All right.
That's been my take all along. I could be way off, but just from somebody who knows a little bit about it, that would be my take on that.
All right, back to the game. Chris Lemonis. Chris Lemonis.
Candidate.
Swing. Hit, take, miss?
Don't know. I'm not going to guess just for the sake of the game show. I don't know if he's called Chris Lamons. I don't know. That is the kind of recklessness you have been teaching young cadets like Kevin McCreary not to do in journalism for all these years.
I hope when you sit down tonight, the only show you can get on your television screen is Baggage. I think that's the only.
He can answer this.
You ever see that show Baggage?
I don't even know what that show is.
Okay, I hope that's the only thing you can get on your television.
Mike can answer this.
I'm watching Narcos now. I recommend it highly. Netflix.
Here's
the question for you, Mike.
Baggage?
If you're Ray Tanner, are you looking for a solid, established coach, or is your mindset that if I get a young up-and-comer who's sitting at the precipice, I can have him here 15 to 20 years? What would you do?
Well, I think you can. There's not a right or wrong answer on that either, because as some of the names Phil has mentioned, some of the coaches at the kind of the tier 2 level now, the head coaches that have had great success, they have obvious reasons to want to move on to a bigger and better job like a South Carolina. On the other end, and there's what you're dealing with there is more of a finished product, and so there's obvious advantages to that. However, if you look at 2 of the best coaching jobs we just saw this year in the SEC. Mingione of Kentucky, the coach at Mississippi State. My brain just had a freeze.
Right.
Both of them did 2 of the most outstanding jobs in the country this year. Never been head coaches. So there's more than one way to skin this cat. I think everybody has in their mind what it is Ray has to go for here. The truth of the matter is, you could go behind door number 1 or door number 2 and be very successful in either one of those ventures, because you have young assistants who's going to be the next Monty Lee or whoever out there that would do a great job, I believe, or you could find an accomplished head coach at a school that's not as prominent, who's already had some success. I think you could score big either way. I mean, I just have a feeling whenever the name is announced, in my mind, it's going to be somebody that's going to be fit for the job and is going to do very well. It might not live up to the hype that a lot of the fans are hoping for, just from the standpoint of name recognition of a guy who's already at a premier school. But I think whoever it is, it'll be somebody who will not disappoint.
Mike, I want to let you know we got your resume. Came in the mail today. It's in the pile, and we may get back to you in a couple of weeks. Just don't make any long-term plans, but we appreciate your interest.
I had one more question for Mike. Mike, when Freddie Freeman comes off the disabled list, will he grab a third baseman's glove or will he play first?
I think they're actually going to let him do this. I think they're actually considering letting him play some third. I know from covering Freddie over the years, there's not many more nimble first basemen. I mean, he's not going to win a 40-yard dash, and he's not going to jump 40 inches in the air. And his wingspan, to use a term on NBA draft night, is not real great. But he can pick it now. I guarantee you he can handle that part of it. I think it's a great story if it does work out that way.
Okay, my friend. We thank you very much.
Congrats to K-Mac. Congrats to that. I'm happy to see him move on, and just another.
Not the only one.
Move on from that Phil Kornblut cesspool that is. No, I kid.
Just another scalp on the wall.
Exactly. But I've enjoyed my time working with him back in Columbia as well, and just another good story there to come out of Sports Talk.
Thanks, thank you. We thank you. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next week.
Okay, guys. Be good.
Mike Morgan on the move, providing us with no insight on the USC baseball search.
But he did say it is a great story. If the Braves traded for Matt Adams just to fill in for Freddie Freeman and end up getting the first baseman and moving your all-star first baseman to third, and it works out, that would be very interesting.
Okay, top of the hour. We'll be back. drink
Cindy was in
heavily.
here earlier today.
Was she?
She did the 5:15.
What is Jimmy Coggins? Hey, that was
I
a great
actually got
cast.
a text from Jimmy Coggins. I was like, "Oh shit!"
That was a great cast.
It was. It was. It was.
South
The only text
Carolina.
I ever got from Jimmy when he's not pissed off. I think.
Radio Network Sports. Are you ready for it? No.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, @SportsTalkSC is how you can reach us. The draft has not yet started, coming up here shortly. So before I get to recruiting, I ask both of you your opinions on what's going to happen with the South Carolina trio tonight, the state of South Carolina trio. Who gets picked? Who gets passed over, you think? What's your best guess?
I think hopefully all of them get picked, but I do think if one got passed over, the most obvious one that I would say would be Blossom Game, just because I haven't
passed
seen
over
in the draft and have to sign as a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dozier and Thornwell both get picked, but probably not until after the first round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think, Pro?
Boy, I think Dozier gets picked in the lower part of the first round, and probably within the first 10 picks of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see Sindarius get chosen,
mm-hmm.
and somebody will get a steal, and they will get a steal.
And Blossom Game.
Boy, it's this close. I will say the near the bottom of the second round.
Mm-hmm. So you think all three will get picked?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think in Blossom Game and Thornwell, two older guys, and there's something to be said for being an older guy who's gone through 4 years of big-time basketball, ACC, SEC level basketball, and excelled at it. Even though Blossom Game's outside shot kind of betrayed him last season. I think that was one of the knocks against him by the scouts going into this draft. He's still a quality player who can run the floor well, plays good defense, can handle the ball, and can hit the outside shot. He can do a lot of good things. Thornwell, of course, I think we all agree for a two-guard probably has a complete game, and he has the proper attitude and mindset. They're going to get picked. Dozier, and somebody who sees a developmental promise with him that you can take, and they got to believe they can improve his outside game. I got to believe. I don't know how he did overall in the combine and the workouts with his outside shooting. Based on the Kentucky game on this past season, his outside shot just was not there. Yeah. Rest of his game is free throw shooting. Rest of his game was solid. His defense was good. He would rebound. He could assist. He could get to the basket. In the lane, his jumper was really good. But just that face-up outside jump shot was inconsistent.
Well, that's a guy that plays defense is what the NBA looks for first. Because they'll tell you that anybody in the NBA, somehow they know how to score. They've done it all their lives. But it's hard to get a hard head to play some defense. All of them come out there with a matador cape. Those guys with those long arms. Yep. You remember the steal against Florida that sealed the deal. What was that? Dozier's long arm looked like he was standing over here, and suddenly there's the arm in the lane.
Get too caught up with the ball. What kind of jump shot did Magic Johnson have?
No, he didn't
Not
have
a very
one.
good one.
But I thought
what about Rondo? I mean, to play point guard and not have to have a deadly jump shot. You don't. If you can get to the rim, and like Pro said, if you're a lockdown defender and can find guys in space, you're going to be okay. I mean, he has all of those skills. He's young, and that upside. I think he's going to be an NBA player. He might not get drafted where he wants to tonight. He might have to work hard to get there, but he definitely has that skill set. Forget the shot. That'll get better, number one. And number two, he doesn't have to be a great shooter.
And the interesting thing about it sort of is a copycat league. And even though we look at guys and, we always say, boy, if they were just 2 or 3 inches taller, you're noticing that some NBA teams are playing small ball. So there will be an opportunity for Thornwell and or Dozier sometimes to be asked to play at the forward position because the other team has 4 guards out there with a power forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, the league is kind of changing, and so guys who are those tweeners years ago that may have not been successful, they're looking for those guys now because they need somebody to run around and guard teams like Golden State who have guys spread all out over the floor.
76ers on the clock, of course, after making the trade with the Celtics for the #1 pick. And then the Lakers will go second. And right now the Celtics are set to go third, then the Suns, and then the Kings. But we don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
Who knows?
A lot of talking's going on. Even after picks are made, we don't know if the pick is going to stick with that team. If that pick, the NBA, I guess maybe more than any of the other leagues, you have teams who will make a pick for a team.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And then they'll announce it afterwards. So-and-so picked, so-and-so has traded him to this team. They had made that pick for them to pick up a couple of picks later on.
That's why you almost have to just put your hands around an old Charlotte Hornets fan and tell them you never had Kobe.
Mm-hmm, right.
Charlotte picked him, but the trade was already made. The Divac and the other guys were coming over.
And thanks to Vlade for making sure that happened too.
Boy, how would have been changed if the Hornets had held on to Kobe?
Yeah.
You'd have still had Shaq.
There's a bunch of picks.
You'd have
like
still
that.
had who else was out there when he joined the team? Shaq was there.
Wasn't there yet.
Shaq wasn't there.
No,
Shaq
he
came
wasn't
later.
there.
Who was your big
Kobe's
player?
rookie year.
It was Divac was out there then because Divac was traded for the rights to
Those Laker
Kobe.
teams were
dreadful.
No, they weren't dreadful. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. They couldn't get past Utah. They would get swept away by Jeff Hornacek and John Stockton and Karl Malone.
The pick and roll.
Deadly.
The old pick and
you
roll.
wouldn't think that a backcourt. You wouldn't think that Nick Van Exel and Kobe Bryant couldn't guard John Stockton and Jeff Hornacek, but they could not guard those two.
Well, it helped. Yeah, it helped that
with Karl Malone.
Karl Malone almost every time he shot the ball,
old
it was
pick
going
and roll,
in.
and that was
mean as a snake.
That was the interesting thing about players being innovative to survive, because I'll never forget when they said when Mike Bibby was first traded to the Hawks, the second game they played was against Utah. And one of the guys couldn't believe it. They looked over, they said, "What is Mike Bibby doing over there?" Mike Bibby was putting on football hip pads. And the guy said, "Why are you wearing those hip pads?" "Man, we playing the pick and roll tonight. If you don't have some pad when Utah runs you into those picks, you're not going to survive." So it's interesting how guys do crazy things to survive in the NBA depending on who the opponent is.
All right, 800-956-7266. Recruiting coming up. Let's hit a couple more phone calls here as we wait to do recruiting and also wait the beginning of the draft. So where are we going, Jarmart? Yes, sir. Right. Billy in Surfside Beach. Okay, Billy, I'm insanely jealous that you're at the beach and I'm not. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Yeah, I took the plunge and moved here permanently. So, hey, Phil, I got a quick comment on Clemson football, which is king of the mountain right now, and then I got one on Gamecock football real quick on Clemson. Just it's a system now, and you don't have to simulate Deshaun Watson with that line of scrimmage on both sides. Everybody talks about how nasty that defensive line's going to be, but that offensive line, especially mid-time, it's going to be I think, injury-free the first rounder. You've got several other ones that's going to be draftable, and then you've got depth as well. Taylor Hearn kind of stands out. Just that's going to be a nasty. Just simulate, just get the ball. Because Kelly, you've got a slew of quarterbacks there. Chase Bryce, Hunter Johnson. We all know the story here. Clemson's reloading now. And just don't be surprised, Bill and fellas, if Clemson, if the quarterback situation works out, the Tigers could see themselves right back in the Final Four. That's what kind of team they are. And on Gamecock football, I'll take your comments off the air.
Well, hang on. I'll be right back to you in a moment.
Sure.
We're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266. Back to the phones we go. And this is Billy. Oh, yeah, Billy in Surfside. Okay.
He was singing the praises of Clemson. Now he wants to trash South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right.
I just have a feeling.
So,
that's
Billy,
what's gonna happen here.
you still think Clemson's offense is going to be dynamic and is going to get the Tigers back to the playoffs for the third straight year?
They're going to go to Louisville and win.
I just said don't. I'll just say this, and then I'll make my Gamecock comment. Phil, I'll just say this. Just don't be surprised because we've seen, what they've got in the backfield. I know Tavion Feaster went on the summer depth chart as third, but you got C.J. Fuller. We're not talking about a, B-C coaching staff. We've proven, they're national championship coaching staff with Brent Venables with that defense, and I really like that hire replacing Marion
Billy, let me ask you a couple of quick questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right now, today, would you take any of the quarterbacks you have at Clemson, or would you take Jake Bentley?
And that was awesome that you read my mind like that, Phil. I honestly, I would take, because of his upside and the scene, look at him and look at his film and so forth, I'd take Hunter Johnson. Hunter Johnson would be the guy I would take. I could fail miserably on evaluating him, but I would take Hunter Johnson, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
Would you take USC's 3 top running backs or Clemson's 3 top running backs?
I'm sorry, Phil. I take Clemson's. I just say it all falls back on coaching. Clemson's got elite coaching and evaluating talent. It's been proven the last several years on evaluating talent, and I just can't make myself.
But South Carolina's returning a pair of backs between them, rush for over 1,000 yards, and then they've got the transfer Tyshawn Williams, who by all accounts is an outstanding prospect. But okay, would you take South Carolina's receivers that some are now calling the best group in the SEC?
Who?
I saw somebody say that.
No, that was ESPN.
That's usually what somebody says when they think that. They go, some people say that South Carolina has the best receivers. And
I'm not saying
that somebody's usually
right.
them,
that
they just don't want to own it.
It was Almighty God, ESPN declared South Carolina has the best. One of their almighty God-like writers.
I thought they fired all their writers.
So anyway, would you take South Carolina's core of receivers over Clemson's?
Phil, come on now. It's wide receiver. Deion Kane, Travion Thompson, Hunter Renfro.
Well, Brian Edwards, Deebo Samuel. This is not French toast anymore.
Phil, the SEC is the weakest division in college football. Make a case for it. You can make a case the SEC East is the weakest division. When Jake Bentley faced an elite defensive line that's capable of winning the national championship like Clemson, he couldn't even make it through the whole game. It was embarrassing, Phil. And the thing is, on Tyshawn Williams, he was with Elijah Hood and T.J. Logan.
Hey,
I like Tyshawn.
So it was Jake Bentley's fault that he had a guy in his ear hole when he's taking the snap.
You know, they haven't forgotten that. You know that, don't you? South Carolina has not forgotten that.
I think they have a hashtag. Never again.
They have not forgotten that night.
Hey, and I'll say this to take it off there. Everybody's got a plan, Phil, until they get punched in the mouth. Famous saying by Mike Tyson. The talent's loaded at Clemson, man. It's just a reloading systematic thing now. And I'm going to take your comments off there. I love your show, man.
Mike Tyson asked maybe South Carolina's Buster Douglas.
Could be. Mike Tyson was right, though. Of course, he didn't until Buster Douglas got him. Nobody could hit him.
So his plan was
everybody had a plan till he got hit in the mouth.
So his plan was to bite off somebody's ear then.
Yeah.
That was his plan.
If necessary.
I appreciate.
Don't be afraid to bite.
I still think South Carolina offensively this year, last year you wouldn't take anybody off South Carolina's offense and say they could go and play at Clemson. This year, I think you got several.
No, I would have taken Deebo Samuel.
And vice versa.
I could see Deebo Samuel.
He'd have been a backup at Clemson last year. He'd have been a backup. Who's he going to beat out in Clemson? Mike Williams, Artavis Scott?
It's the same roll call you call Duke. Duke got this time. South Carolina ain't got a chance to beat Duke.
Oh, don't compare the two.
Yeah, it is.
Listen, South Carolina had no chance to beat Clemson in football. last year, and Clemson
because
proved
of the lines of
and
scrimmage.
they flat out proved
It was the lines of scrimmage.
It was the overall talent.
No, it was the lines of scrimmage. Give me great lines of scrimmage and decent talent, and I can still beat you.
But
the game is played on the line of scrimmage.
You don't think Watson to Williams a few times, Wayne Gallman busting off runs
because of the lines of scrimmage.
Exactly.
Well, yeah,
you can't win
I
up
get
front.
that, but I mean, Clemson's skill position players last year were so much better than South Carolina's, and they were better in the line of scrimmage. They were better.
They were better
every
everywhere.
Aspect.
Well, they were better than everybody in the country
this year.
But it's the lines of scrimmage.
I would take Jake Bentley. Until I see otherwise, I would take Jake Bentley over any of Clemson's quarterbacks.
I wouldn't argue that.
But
I wouldn't argue that.
But I would take South Carolina's running back. I would take what's his name?
Dowdle.
Yeah, I would take Rico Dowdle right now, based on what I saw.
Because he likes saying Rico and Dowdle.
If
over
they can,
any of Clemson's running backs.
If they can block, we don't even know that South Carolina's offensive line can block.
Yeah, I'll take. Will you take Clemson's
line.
offensive line? Yes. You'll take Clemson's defensive line. Yes.
Oh yeah. I would take most of
Clemson's
defense over South Carolina's defense. Yeah, no question. Clemson's offensive line.
Clemson's depth. Yes, and that's the other issue too. South Carolina is much better. I think they're going to have some playmakers out there. They're not going to have a lot of depth. They're still going to be a 7-8 win team. That's where they are right now. They're not going to be back where they were when Spurrier had it rolling in its heyday, and Clemson is still ahead of them. South Carolina, I do think they've closed the gap just by attrition and what they have. And Jake Bentley is the truth. If he stays healthy and he gets any kind of play up front that's decent, just moderate. South Carolina gets moderate offensive line play for the first time in 6 years. And Deebo Samuel can stay healthy. They'll have a chance to beat some people. Certainly, they'll be in some games that maybe they shouldn't be in, but Clemson's still way ahead of South Carolina.
Not as much as they were last year.
No,
I think the gap is closing.
Like I said, quarterback-wise, I mean, that's a big gap. Having a quarterback.
I think South Carolina defensively is going to show strides this year. I think some of the incoming freshmen. I think MJ Webb is going to help out immediately on the defensive front. Sky Moore. I think their linebacking core, the three, if they stay healthy, Brunson, Moore, and Allen Williams, gives them a very, very solid three there. They're going to be helped by Jamias Williams coming in at corner, giving them more depth, another quality player there. I think DJ Smith is an excellent safety. I think he's an excellent safety. Now, they've got to figure out their special teams. You know, they lose their kicker and their punter. That's still – I think they know who their kicker is going to be. Their punter might still be something to be determined in the fall. But I think South Carolina defensively is going to be a better defensive team, if nothing else, because it's year 2 under Muschamp and those coaches, and they're going to know a little bit more about how to play that defense and not have to think about it so much, more react instead of think. And it's not going to be as hard for them to get lined up and read their keys and all that kind of stuff.
And, of course, they play with what you think would be a better offense. I said last year, if you want to see a defense buckle, let an offense struggle, and you're 3 and out, and your defense back on that field. It's going to wear on you. And of course, South Carolina at the end of the year, they played some great offenses, but they also wore down at the end of the year.
All right, coming up after the break, we'll give you recruiting. I see where PJ Dozier is having this is kind of risky. Yeah, having a draft party tonight. So, gosh, I hope he gets drafted. Be kind of a bummer to have a draft party and not get drafted. I just saw a tweet by Pete Gillen, and he mentioned Dozier as a sleeper point guard for the draft. So he said keep an eye on Dozier being picked as a point guard for somebody in the draft. Have we not started yet? What in the hell are they waiting on?
42 seconds.
Oh, gee. I mean, how much ESPN talking can you take before you actually do something in this world? Does everything have to be previewed for 3 weeks and then another half hour before you get to it?
Milk it.
Get off my lawn.
Incredible. Back in a moment. All right, we are back. It is Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network here on a Wednesday night. I promise you we'll get to the recruiting report here in just a couple of minutes. The baseball game in Omaha doesn't start for another half hour. For some reason, ESPN decided to hold the start of that game till 8 o'clock Eastern time. I guess they want everybody to watch their pre-draft stuff, which is still going on. I think finally we're going to get around to the first pick now. Thank you. So let's turn our attention to something really exciting. That is football. And we continue our series of previews of USC and Clemson opponents tonight. It's the Georgia Bulldogs. First of all, let me open up the Athens-Clarke County jail site so I can look at some mugshots of Georgia football players. And we welcome in Seth Emerson from the AJC covering the Bulldogs. Well, am I wrong about that?
You had to open like that.
That's what he does.
So now, all right. First off, I didn't understand I'd be coming on with corn blue. I came on for K-Mac.
Oh,
for
okay.
His swan song for goodbye. And second of all, now if there are some Georgia fans listening in Columbia, what's going to happen is they're going to claim that I said that in the jail log, and I'm going to get in trouble. Let the record show nobody's been arrested in a while.
Okay.
And you know, things are good here right now because things are good because they just are. Nobody's been arrested. Although I guess maybe I should check the get. Now you're making me worry that I need to check the log. So
Yeah.
I'll go do that after I get off the phone.
All right, we'll let you shed a tear for K-Mac at the very end. Now, this Georgia team, I mean, I'm sure the optimism is pretty high with the running backs back, the quarterback's a year older. They're going to feel like he's better. What do you think? Now, they do have to replace that offensive line. What's your overall take?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it with the offensive line, and that's surprising, Cornbrew. You made a good point.
Thank you.
That is very surprising.
That was a weak link last year, and then they lost 3 starters. The thing they have going for them is that, number one, they recruited well. So the question is, how good can these recruits be right away? And number two, Sam Pittman, the offensive line coach, is one of the best in the country. And so you'd think that in year 2, he's going to coach them up well. Then it just becomes a matter of, how much of a step forward does Jacob Eason make? Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, they're not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be good. Tight end Isaac Nauta, that guy's a difference maker at tight end. He's going to be a sophomore this year. He's going to be good. And, the receivers have to, they've got some questions there. They don't have a game breaker right now that we know of. Maybe somebody emerges. Defense, they returned 10 out of 11 starters. That was pretty good to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect them to be really good over there, potentially dominant. And special teams, special teams is a concern. Shane Beamer, somebody that we all covered when he was at South Carolina and now is Georgia's special teams coordinator. He'll be the first to tell you, if we were able to talk to him for interviews, that Georgia's special teams weren't at their best last year. They weren't at their most average, really, and they need to improve there too. I think overall, this is a team that obviously, especially in the SEC East, has the ability to win the East and get there. But I don't look at it as a team that, if they got to the championship game, would be able to challenge Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I look at Georgia, and you knew there was going to be
those birds I'm hearing in the background?
Yeah, you all can hear that. We're expecting tornadoes, which is one thing. But if I go inside, I've got 2 young children who are going to bed.
No, I'd rather hear the birds.
For the record,
yeah,
Seth couldn't join us at 7:22 when we normally do these interviews with our football writers.
Was he feeding?
No, he had to play chess with his son. So who won the chess match? Did you get checkmate?
We ended it. We ended it. We usually start it and then continue it. You know how 4-year-olds are, the short attention span. But I would like to think that I was in good position.
Well, I was about to ask you, we knew there was going to be some growing pains, but Georgia has a lot of talent. And I knew they had problems with their offensive line, but Seth, tell me, did not Georgia get in a mental funk after that Hail Mary to Tennessee? It looked like it took the gas out of them the rest of the season.
Well, I think the very next week was the South Carolina game. So they won that game. I'm trying to think after that. And then I think after that was Florida.
Yeah, they lost 2 in a row.
Lost that.
Yeah, they lost 2 in a row before USC beat USC, then lost 2 in a row.
Yes. They lost. They were 3-0. They went into Ole Miss and they got pounded, 45-14 in the game, wasn't that close. And then they lost the Hail Mary game to Tennessee, which, by the way, kind of thing that gets lost there is Georgia basically made a Hail Mary to set that up.
Yeah.
So, but then they won the South Carolina game, and then they lost the next 2 after that. So they were a team that was sitting there at 4-4, and you're like, well, the wheels could really come off here. And then they beat Kentucky and kind of righted the ship a little bit before then losing to Georgia Tech. So it was, you came out of Kirby Smart's first year saying we tell yet whether he's going to be the next Nick Saban or whether he's going to be the next. Well, I was going to say Will Muschamp. I don't know how that would go over.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. Yeah.
Golf. No, look, I believe I'm somebody having covered Ray Tanner. I could see where Will Muschamp will work out, because I think in Ray Tanner, Will Muschamp has an AD who's going to say to him, what do you need? Okay, let's go get it. Mm-hmm. And not that Jeremy Foley wasn't that, but they didn't have an indoor facility when Muschamp was at Florida. So that's just one example. Mark Richt never had at Georgia either.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that may help Kirby here eventually, is Georgia's finally really opened the pocketbooks and given their head football coach what they want.
Now, I know they're going to have a great running game, and they're going to line up and, I guess, try and pound you. What about in the receiving side of things? Godwin's back, Chigbu's back. I mean,
yes.
Do you believe those are high-level receivers? Do they have some others that will step up?
Well, those two guys, Georgia fans will not say that about Michael Chigbu, because he's one of those guys who's not very exciting, but the coaches keep putting him out there because he's the smart guy who is big and he blocks well and knows the routes, et cetera, et cetera. Godwin's the guy that you would look at and say, could he be the guy that really emerges? He's been Georgia's second leading receiver each of the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. But he's smallish. He's 5'10", and they'd really rather have that like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" kind of guy. And they've got some candidates like that. They've moved Mecole Hardman, this 5-star recruit a couple years ago, who they had at cornerback last year, but it just didn't work out there. And he's a receiver. So, maybe, but the guy that he probably won't be their leading receiver because he's a tight end. But I mentioned him earlier, Isaac Nauta. He was also a 5-star recruit, and he's special. He's one of those guys who's a blend of size and speed. He's a competitive advantage for Georgia. Mm-hmm. Whether he's lining up with a linebacker or the defensive back, he's the guy that I think ultimately, it's kind of like with the Patriots. I'm not comparing him to Gronkowski, but it's kind of like playing the Patriots. It's like, that's the guy they got to watch.
Yeah. I think Georgia's got a good team, man. Their defense looks loaded. Like you mentioned, 10 starters returning, and they are, those guys are good players. As I look at some of the names, I mean, they're good players.
When haven't we said that in June or July about Georgia?
Yeah. We'll just have to wait for Kirby to mess it up. Hey, listen, go back to your kids and enjoy their company as we have enjoyed yours. Oh, you want to say anything finally to K-Mac here?
No, I'm a little bit on the spot. I'm not really sure what to say other than I think everyone's really happy for you and probably happy for themselves not to have to listen to you.
There it is. There it is.
K-Mac knows how I feel, and he knows that I miss our basketball games on Wednesdays where he had the best outside shots. He was, what was your comparison?
Me.
I would say
Kobe Bryant. I would say a cross between Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and
me.
LeBron.
Yeah,
like the best of all those players. No, I missed those games too, Seth. But I'm not going away.
He's not dying.
No, you're not.
He's not dying that we know of. Hey, Seth.
I'm still going to hit you up when I go back to Columbia for games.
Don't worry.
Hey, we'll see you, man. Thank you very much.
See ya.
We appreciate it. Seth Emerson from the AJC. Back in a moment. Okay, recruiting coming up. Let me tell the engineer producer that I want my walk-up music tonight, so I have it standing by. First two picks of the draft, finally, the ESPN talkers have shut up, and we've gotten to the picks. So Markelle Fultz, breaking news. He went first to Philadelphia, and the Lakers just took Lonzo Ball, 6'6" point guard. So a couple of point guards go in the first two picks. Fultz to Philly and Ball to the Lakers. And now it is you think the NBA well, the Celtics are on the clock, right? That's right. We got the third pick now. Yeah, third pick is the Celtics. Oh, I'm nervous about this. I can't be doing.
You got to go Jackson here, right?
They're either Tatum or Jackson. Either Tatum or Jackson is what you're saying.
Jackson seems like a Danny Ainge guy.
Or make a trade. Okay, let's
they have about 1,000 first-round picks they've acquired over.
Yeah, they got a bunch.
Got the Lakers next year.
All right, let me do recruiting here before we.
I said the Kings in the building.
Yep.
Tell me how you feeling.
You're gonna miss that, K-Mac.
That's why I left, actually.
Tell me how you feeling.
Yep.
Tell me how you feeling. Yeah, I said the
You have
Kings
to pay
in
this
the
guy
building.
royalties if you don't start talking soon.
When you close your eyes tonight, K-Mac, and you start to dream, you're gonna hear that music, and my image is gonna appear in your brain.
You better see
when you
You
hear
better see a psychiatrist.
the king is in the building. Defensive back Kyler McMichael, Norcross, Georgia, one of the top athletes in Georgia in the 2018 class. Explosive player, the ball in his hands. That's how his coach, Tim Hardy, plans to use him again this season. College recruiters love him more as a defensive back. So that's how they're going after him, with an idea of maybe working him in to the offense some. Final six of Clemson, Georgia, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, Florida State. And tomorrow he'll announce his choice. If he chooses Clemson, Hardy said it will be in large part due to the relationships he's developed with the Tigers staff over his multiple visits there. He's become very, very close to the group. And he has appreciated, especially at Clemson, the coach said, the environment, and as he put it, the genuine nature of the people throughout the football program. Once he makes the final decision, contact all six schools and let them know. He's playing in a 7-on-7 tournament tomorrow morning. He'll post his decision on Twitter sometime Friday. The coach was not sure if it will go up between the games in the morning or later in the day. This month, McMichael made visits to Clemson, Auburn, Tennessee, and Georgia. He last season rushed for 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. He caught 14 passes for 214 yards and a score. Wide receiver Jordan Adams of Cary, North Carolina, has said his announcement for July 3rd. Of course, he's the former Blythewood standout. His decision is down to Clemson and North Carolina.
So they're going to select Jason Tatum, by the way.
The Celtics are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got the Wojo draft going. Why watch the real draft
exactly.
when you can have Adrian Wojciechowski?
Absolutely. All right, so he's down to Clemson and North Carolina. Of course, his dad is defensive line coach at North Carolina. I think everybody will be shocked if he doesn't pick the Tar Heels. Wouldn't stick it to old dad, would you? Dad, of course, Deke Adams, who used to coach at USC. Defensive back Jonathan Gibson of Houston, Georgia, revealed his top 7 in order. USC, Tennessee, Indiana, Oregon State, Auburn, Colorado, Clemson. All but Clemson have offered. He visited USC and Clemson for junior days earlier in the year, and he camped at Clemson earlier this month. Clemson offered 2019 defensive back Joseph Charleston of Alpharetta, Georgia. A reminder, defensive end Stephon Wynn Jr. from Anderson, IMG Academy in Florida, will announce on July 1st USC, Georgia, and Alabama, his finalists. Most observers are saying Georgia for him, even though he's made some visits to USC and to Alabama, and he's made several to Georgia as well. And so we'll have to wait and see what he does on the first. USC running back target Levante Valentine, Melbourne, Florida, was at LSU yesterday. Basketball, 6'5", Johnny Newman III of Greensboro wrapped up his official to Clemson last night. Tomorrow, he plans to announce his college commitment. Clemson, Wake Forest, Virginia, Providence, his final 4. As for his Clemson visit, he said, it was great. Really enjoyed my time there. He said what stood out was the overall family feel, the genuineness of the people on campus, and they told him they needed a player like him with versatility and a good two-way player, and they told him he would fit in with their core group of guards. And again, he's announcing tomorrow at around 6:45. 6'9" Ian Steer of High Point, North Carolina, said he's been in touch with Clemson. The Tigers want him back on campus soon. And updating Zion Williamson, 2018, Zion Williamson, 6'6", out of Spartanburg Day. And he has been out of action for a few weeks. He banged up his knee, just hit his knee on the hardwood and had a deep knee contusion going back a few weeks at the beginning of AAU season. So they sat him down and let him rest it. He's back to 100% now, just starting to work out again. His stepfather telling us that he's going to an Adidas event in L.A. this weekend, and then they have the Adidas Gauntlet Final in Spartanburg on July 12th through the 15th. As far as recruiting, that has kind of slowed down a little bit. It's a quiet period through July 5th. It goes to a dead period starting July 6th, lasting the rest of the month, except for evaluation days. So, according to Lee Anderson, his stepdad, there's nothing going on with the schools, nothing new going on. Everything's been kind of quiet since AAU started, he said. Williamson is in the process of determining where he wants to visit. They have not come up with that list yet. They're interested in all the schools, but he said South Carolina and Clemson have always been in the mix. And then whenever he makes that list, it will be between 5 and 6. And then he'll take his official visits in the fall. But right now, he will not sign until the spring.
Jason Tatum.
And the Celtics take Jason Tatum from Duke. Okay.
And now Indiana and Boston are engaged in serious talks on a Paul George trade, according to Wojo.
Giving up what?
I don't know. And then I hope that happens. You get him for a little rental.
No, we'll sign it. We're not stupid. The College of Charleston signed 6'8" Samba Jai, a native of Senegal who attends Sunrise Christian Academy in Wichita, Kansas. That's the school that sent the 2 Lithuanians to USC, Hakavicius and Kachinas, yeah. Those 2 came from that school back in the day. Right when Frank Martin came to USC, that was one of the schools he hit up. All right, there you go with recruiting. Check it out on the website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Very quickly, and we got about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. How about a little Bulldog Bert for you here to follow up on all that great Georgia talk? Did you buy any of that stuff we were saying about Georgia?
Well, I don't know why you didn't ask him about Amir White. Is he coming to Georgia? But anyway.
He's not a recruiter.
We'll see next Tuesday.
That's right. Next Tuesday, the big running. I think he's going to Georgia. Some people are thinking North Carolina. But if you look at it, I mean, you go to Georgia, you're going to get a chance to carry the ball, and the 2 studs are leaving Georgia.
That's right. But K-Mac say it ain't so that you was leaving. I got to have somebody to give a hard time when Carolina loses to Georgia this year.
Well, do it to
Corner sitting here.
Bulldog Bird.
Our replacement for K-Mac, Chris Berman, you can let him have it when Georgia beats South Carolina.
And Phil, I'm sorry I can't accept to replace K-Mac. I have to announce Saluda Middle School football.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, we got your resume. It's in the stack with Mike Morgan's and others. Well, let me leave it to you this way. Don't call us. We'll call you.
Have a good life.
Thank you, BB. Yeah. Did I let the cat out of the bag that Chris Berman's replacing you? Back.
Good stuff.
Anyway, dream on.
That's why Ray doesn't tell you anything.
K-Mac night tomorrow night on Sports Talk. We'll see you then.